I'm back, guys. I'm back. It's been so long, and finally I'm here again. It feels so right. This place is beautiful. I love this place so much. Hello everybody, how are you? I am Mario Chinarjo, and welcome to this new episode of Analyzing Fiction. And oh my god, does it feel good to be back here. So for those who don't know, which is probably most of you, I actually haven't recorded a single video in over a month, which is weird because last week we had a video too, and that's because I programmed them ahead of time. So it's been actually over a month since I have recorded a video, and it feels so weird to be back here. So many things have happened that I've grown so much as a person. It's been amazing, an amazing time, and well, now we're back, so we have to record a new video. Yeah, there's a new microphone because the last one broke. This one isn't as long as the last one, so we won't be able to be walking around like before. So that will be a problem sometime. Hopefully not right now. Anyway, today we will be talking about 1984 by the great author George Orwell. Yeah, I do not have a POW here because the book, I only have it on Kindle, so there is no POW for this video. Anyway, so yeah, I guess we should. Oh no, before that, these two guys here, they're already available on Amazon, both in digital and physical format, in case you want to get them. In which case, I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your help. We're about to get a new news for something more in a couple days, so be wary of that. We might be getting more information. Well, you might be getting more information. I already have it. So anyway, let's start talking about our great author for today, George Orwell. George Orwell, born by the name of Eric Arthur Blair, was a British essayist, critic, and novelist. He, throughout his whole career as an author, he always had this inclination to make governmental critique. So he critiqued the government, essentially. And this happened because of many of the experiences that he had in life. For example, he greatly opposed British imperialism in the beginning of his life. Later on, he had a very bad experiences because of that government in Paris and in London, and eventually he went all the way through World War I, all the way through the Great Depression, followed by the rise of fascism in Italy, then fascism in Germany, then the rise of Franco in Spain, and eventually World War II, because yay! So, George Orwell always had this deep relationship with all these governments, totalitarian governments, oligarchies, and which led him to really criticize them throughout his overall career as an author. Of course, he also had the Russian Revolution. So that is a very prominent theme overall in all his works, and the two most famous of his novels are Animal Farm and 1984. And Animal Farm is literally a satire of the Russian Revolution. It is literally the Russian Revolution, but in a farm, and instead of having Lenin and Trotsky and Stalin, you have Snowball and Napoleon and the old pig, whose name I don't remember right now. So yeah, Animal Farm is essentially a satire of all the Russian Revolution and how it was all, how socialism, well, at the beginning it was a very interesting option, and it appeared to be an exit, a way to flee from unrestrained capitalism, which is a problem. It ended up becoming even worse than unrestrained capitalism, and that is essentially the whole point of Animal Farm. Then you have 1984, which is the novel that probably his most famous novel, probably his best novel, and that one isn't inspired on an actual event, thank God. It is actually a depiction of a future around the year 1984, that's why, hence the name, which deals with this dystopian world in which there are only three parties which have taken control of the whole world and are essentially omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient because they just have so much control over the world. and those are his two most famous novels. And man, I do not know which one is worse, but both of them are very good and you should read them. In worse, I mean which one has the biggest impact on me. I've read both, and definitely 1984 had the biggest impact on me, but Animal Farm is also a very hard book. So both are not that interesting, well, not that lighthearted of books, but yeah, they're also very good and you should really check them out. Anyway, that has been a long biography that has flown into a depiction and explanation of books. So now I think we can officially begin talking about the plot of this book, and then we'll get into the review. So, the plot of 1984 follows young Winston Smith, a worker who works at the Ministry of Truth, and his job there as a worker in the Ministry of Truth is to examine pieces of newspapers or encyclopedias or things like that have historical errors, and his job is essentially to fix them. That the government has an official account of history and he has to destroy versions that do not follow that account, that are false, and replace them with versions that are accurate. The thing is that Winston is also being able to notice how many of these things do not quite fit. How he sometimes has to make a change here that contradicts another change that he did sometime before. And he realizes this, and slowly he begins to grow apart from the government and begin to question it. This is also enhanced by the fact that he discovers this book while walking on the street, which he begins to use as his diary. And in his diary, he begins to write things that are only for him to read, so no one else reads those things, which is also helped out by the fact that the huge TV screen, which essentially serves as a spy camera, it's positioned in a way that there's a small section in his room where he can hide and write. Okay, so he has a little bit of freedom in that tiny shadowed space, which he uses to write in his book that only he knows exists. And this also helps him grow apart from the government. This is also given more importance when he meets this girl called Julia, whom at first he believes that she wants to kill him. Turns out to be a woman who's also grown apart from the government and who also is trying to figure out how they have lied to her and to find an answer and oppose the government, essentially. So they become a couple, and together they begin to search for a way to oppose the government, which is thankfully an existing party. There is a group of people who oppose the government called, led by a man whose last name is Goldstein. I believe his first name is Emmanuel. I'm not sure. And they begin to search for this Goldstein, who is a leader of a rebellion and considered the traitor of society. And the novel is very, very interesting because it really shows what this totalitarian oligarchies can evolve into if they are given enough power. It is horrifying. It is not a cool story. If you want to sleep at night, do not read this. No, I'm kidding. But if you want to read something that is lighthearted and calm and you want to feel happy, do not read this. But it is still an amazing work of art, a magnificent piece of literature that it is a classic after all. Anyway, now that we have discussed the plot, we can now get into my review of it. So, as you may have noticed, I have a high opinion of the plot of this book. I think it is amazing. I really liked everything about this plot. It is horrifying in the most satisfying of ways. And when I finished reading the book, which turned out to be when the soundtrack that I was listening to ended, I didn't know if I wanted to laugh, if I wanted to cry, if I wanted to throw the book away, if I wanted to yeet the Kindle across the room and scream in horror because, oh my god, it's horrifying. What the is wrong with that ending? But anyway, it's it's a very good plot. I really like it, and I think it's very, very strong in every way possible. Now, it's horrifying. It's a horrifying plot, and George Orwell really understood how oligarchies and totalitarian societies work, and he made one in the worst possible way, in which there is literally no hope of escape. It is a magnificent novel that you all must read because it has a great plot. Now, onto the characters. Each of the characters in this book, and there are not that many, are extremely well created. And not only that, but you can see the effects of having a totalitarian society that grants them no freedom on them. You can see how these people, even though they believe they are free of thought, even though they believe that they have their own individual will and their own thoughts that can never be meddled with, you see them being affected by the government and by the constant lack of freedom that they have. Like literally across the whole book, you see their thoughts being manipulated by different things, and that is so terrifying and in such a great way. I'm gonna say this over and over again, but I need to stress this out. This book is scary. It is not only dystopia, it should be horror, because it is. Not only that, but it is real, authentic horror of what happens in a place, for example, like North Korea, if it were to gain a global expanse. If the whole world became North Korea and the government essentially became omnipotent, this would happen. This would most likely happen. Man, was this scary to see, and it was amazing. I loved the character development, especially for Winston and Julia. I think both of those characters are incredibly well done, and especially in part 3, that section of the book is so heartbreaking, it's so horrifying, it is so well done that, oh my god, you really suffer while reading this book in the best of ways. And now into the narrative, George Orwell creates a perfect atmosphere for this horrible and scary situation with his word choice and with his narrative overall, his sentences, every single one of them from the very beginning. It was a cold April morning and the clocks had just struck 13 or something like that. That's the first line. Even from the beginning, you start to feel that defamiliarization, and you start to feel that strangeness to the world. You start to feel like there's something wrong here, and Orwell's ability to explain all that with his narrative only enhances the feeling of horror that this book overall creates. It is so good in every way. It is one of the best books I have ever read, and it is simply incredible. George Orwell is a master of narrative, because in Animal Farm it is completely different. That book is more of a satire than 1984, and in both books his narrative fits the plot and the character arcs perfectly. And you know what? Why not? Let's begin talking about this world. The world of 1984 is incredible, incredibly well made, and incredibly well structured. INGSOC, Oceania, one of the biggest parties, one of the big 3 parties that controls, unsurprisingly, Oceania, South Africa, all America, and a little bit of North Europe. That party has this motto, which is war is peace, ignorance is strength, and slavery is freedom. And war is peace essentially means that there are 3 parties in this world, right? And each party all the time claims that they are enemies of one party and allies with another. And that party with which they are enemies, they are horrible, they must be destroyed, they are despised by everyone in the world. There is literally something called hate hour, in which, well, hate minute or something like that, a 3-minute hate, I believe that's what it's called, where people literally scream and shout and expel all their hatred into that enemy party. And what that creates is the sense that the enemy is far away and not right where they are. So the people are never worried about the government that is literally controlling their lives, but are more focused on that distant and rather unimportant enemy, because there is no war in reality. And then you have ignorance is strength, which is essentially that the government is constantly limiting education. They're eliminating words from the dictionary. They are shoving love for Big Brother into everyone's throat. And what this creates is that people have no education and have no way of fighting against this huge government that controls everything, because they do not know how to fight against it, because they cannot think, essentially. And then you have freedom is slavery, or slavery is freedom, one or the other, which essentially means that if a slave never knows the life of a free man, if a slave never knows that freedom exists, then the slave will believe that the life that they lead is perfect and will find nothing wrong with it. And that motto right there, those 3 lines, man, I just love this book in every way. It frightened me so much when I read it for the first time. So I will give this book, my grade for this book will be that of a 95 out of 100, because man, is it great, and you have to read it. But however, if you read it, do not do so with the Joker soundtrack. Believe me, it is not a good idea. Anyway, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I will see you next week for the next couple of videos. I will only be publishing one a week, then I will restart the 2 videos a week, Thursdays and Sundays. But for now, I need to catch up with many things. I haven't been here in a while, so I'll only be able to do 1 every week. Anyway, thank you so much for all your help. I truly hope that you have enjoyed this video, and I will see you around later. Well, thank you so much for everything. Goodbye.